is your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker and I'm excited for today's show. How about you guys? Yay! I'm excited because today we have, a real value-added gift for you guys. Sean Castrina, he is the best-selling author of the 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success. He's a great entrepreneur and, he's been featured with all these famous people and everything. But what's important that you want to know is he going to add value to you today? And the truth is, absolutely. So without further ado, I want to introduce Sean to you and get started. Hey, Sean.
Hey, it's great to be on the podcast.
So, I did want to mention your book because I think it has a really interesting title. And I'm curious, the 8 unbreakable rules for business startup success. Now, there's, a lot of people listening are not necessarily startups, but they're entrepreneur. And I think there are these unwritten rules that people either know or don't know about. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
All right.
So tell me why there are 8 and how you came up with them.
Yeah, I was on vacation with my roommates from college and had a legal pad and was just taking some notes. And I was trying to figure out why my companies had statistically done so much better than most startups, because 9 out of 10 startups fail within a decade. 1 out of 2 fail within 2 to 5 years, give or take the statistics you read. But many fail. At the end of the day, too many fail. And so I went back and just started writing like 1-sentence axioms, little principles that I had used over the years and why my businesses did well. And when I got to the end of that, I kind of started putting them in little blocks. And what I found is there was patterns. The first pattern I found is that you need to know why you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place, because there's nothing wrong with being an employee if that's what you're wired to be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a school teacher, nothing wrong with being a nurse, a doctor, whatever the case may be. Some people are wired better to be an employee.
So do you think that some people started their businesses kind of with the wrong basis of that they're not really entrepreneurs, but they were kind of like pushed in?
Well, I just think that you better be motivated. Your why has to so motivate you that when it gets difficult, and it's going to be difficult, I just believe your why has to be so motivating to you. See, I don't think people start it necessarily for the wrong reason, but you need to know why you started it so that when the uphill climb starts, you remember, wait, I did this so I can have a flexible work schedule. I did this so I can, go to all my kids' events. I did this so I could be home at a certain time. I did this so that nobody limited my advancement. I did this so I'd never get laid off. I did this so I controlled my own income. My only thing is that I start in the book with the first rule is know why you're doing this, and it has to motivate you. So when things get difficult, you know why you did it.
Absolutely. We've got to have that higher purpose that's going to carry us through and make things easier. And I think that's really important. Yeah.
And then, this going through a few of the rules. I don't need to go through all of them. But you need to have a plan. I know it sounds, and I've wrote the book, The World's Greatest Business Plan. So I believe in having a plan. Yeah, I do know. So you have to kind of have a strategy on what you're going to do, how you're going to grow this business. I always tell people, if I gave you a free vacation, simple thing, I said, here, $5,000 free vacation, you wouldn't probably just go in your car and head out west. You'd probably sit down and go, do I want a summer vacation or a winter vacation? Do I want to ski or do I want to be at the beach? We spend less time on our business plan than that. It doesn't make any sense.
That is true. I think I saw 60% of people, entrepreneurs don't create a business plan.
Yeah.
Like there's no plans whatsoever, no marketing plan, no plan.
If you don't plan, you fail, unfortunately. Right. So you need to have some type of plan and what you're trying to accomplish, what your competition, who your competition is, how you're going to be different, things of that nature. The other thing is that marketing is not optional. It's amazing how we think because of social media, we're going to have a word of mouth business. Well, I find it very funny that Budweiser spends $25 million during a Super Bowl to remind us that they sell beer, though every one of us knows exactly what Budweiser sells.
That's
and yet,
right.
when you watch the Super Bowl commercials, every one of those companies we're familiar with. We know that GoDaddy sells websites. We know Geico sells insurance.
Right.
But they spend the money because they want to constantly own that position in your brain. They
Got to be top of mind.
Exactly. So marketing is not optional. If you want to be a successful company, you need a budget for marketing. Then I talk about, your team.
Well, let me stop there for a second. Because, I like to keep it interactive.
Yeah.
And, there's people who are like, well, I can't budget for marketing. I mean,
then don't start a company.
So would you say that it should be a percentage? Like I know there's a lot of people just don't know how to go about that. They say they don't have the cash flow. And then, can you give them some guidelines?
Yeah, out of 10% starting out, it should at least be 50% of a quality employee. Whatever you would pay a quality employee, you think about something like this. Business.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. I just want people to be able to, to wrap their heads around it. Like what amount for a growing business, a starting business, or even an established business is the right amount to, to give them a basis.
Yeah, you're going to spend $10,000 or $20,000, and just the logic of it. Just thinking about it. If you don't attract customers, you're out of business. This is like, it's that critical.
Business 101.
it is. So when people say, oh, I can't spend that, I'm like, no, you actually can't afford not. You have to spend this because if you don't attract customers, you will be out of business. Businesses go out of business for one reason 99% of the time. They stop selling enough of their products to stay in business, and that's because they're not attracting customers anymore. So marketing is just not optional.
So one more thing on that point. There's a lot of people who get sucked into long-term, marketing campaigns that are harder to produce. How do you look at that?
I don't like long-term marketing. I don't care what anybody tells you.
What would you consider long-term marketing? Just so we get that
long-term, anything over 90 days. If you're a startup, they want to tell you, hey, you got to build traction. And I know all the little things that they tell you, but I'm going to let you on a marketing tip that I've learned. Marketing either works or it doesn't work. And it works fast or it doesn't work. So you're better off trying something for like 30 days, 2 weeks. Don't sign any long-term contracts. I am telling you, this is kind of like pay as you go. Because if you find something that works, then put more money into it. But I've seen too many businesses get into long-term contracts. They start their business, they do all these little 12-month contracts with everybody, and they think they're getting such a good deal. Well, I bought 12 months, so I say this. No. 30 days at a time, 2 weeks at a time. If I could do it a day at a time, I would, because I want to find out what's going to work for me. And anything that doesn't work is wasted money.
So people should be calculating their return on their investment around their marketing, correct?
Absolutely. Take this from me. If you don't get anything, track every single lead you get, every call you get, find out how they found out about you, because then you'll know where to put your marketing money.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was 2. I'm sorry. I know I keep bringing these things in, but
keep going.
I get excited about them. So how about another one of those rules? So we talked about the why, the plan, and marketing is a must.
Marketing, and then, you're hiring a great team. Don't hire family and friends unless you come from a better genealogy than I come from. My family reunion, I look around, I love them all, but I'm not hiring anybody. Okay, so I think that our default position is to hire family and friends, and the problem is that they're not. Number one is that you got to hire the best people. When you understand the statistics that 9 out of 10 fail, why would you hire average people? That doesn't make sense to me. Right. In other words, this is a daunting task. A startup is a daunting task. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Pay good money and hire decent people. I always say there's no 7s in hiring. Hire 8s or better. And then the next response is, I can't afford to hire great people. And then I go back to, then you shouldn't start a business, because if you don't market and you don't hire talented people, you're going to be in that 1 and 2 that fail, period.
Yep.
So you got to hire some talented people.
Absolutely.
And like sales is so critical. That's one of those where they hire their Uncle Billy. Everybody likes Uncle Billy. He's great at building a rapport, but he can't sell anything.
Right.
You got to hire sales professionals.
Right. You have to get somebody with a proven track record, right?
Absolutely. So who you hire is really critical, and the tendency is to hire family and friends. And I'm just saying that's not the best place to start.
Well, and it's hugely expensive to make that kind of mistake, because the time, energy, and effort it is to have to let someone go that isn't working, especially if they're connected to you, is super high. And then the cost of replacing them. It's unfortunately, people say it's hard, to do that. And I always say, pick your hard, right? It's hard to do that, but it's even harder to go with the alternative, which is wasting time and money.
Yeah. I just find that what I've learned, 20 years of doing businesses, is that I've never overpaid for talent. It's always been the person who underperformed. It's always been the 7s that I hired that end up being 6s and 5s. So now when I train my partners, we'll go through some interviews. It's really funny. And at the end of it, I'll go, well, what do you think? We'll step into another room. They go, pretty good. I go, give me a number from 1 to 10. 7. I go, great, we're not hiring.
Right.
He goes, why? I go, because a 7 is a 7, and a 7 is probably a 6. And if you really thought he was good, I said, tell me he's an 8 and I'll hire him. He goes, no, I don't think he's an 8. Or I don't think she's an 8. So we got to kind of get out of the average pendulum, unless they're just opening the doors.
Absolutely. I like it. Yeah.
Another one of mine is protect yourself. Protect yourself in your business. Partnership agreements. I don't care if you sit down in the kitchen and write some bullet points and you both sign it and go get it notarized. But, if you're going to do a partnership agreement, I love partnerships, but you need to know what everybody's responsibility is. What happens if they fail to fulfill their responsibilities? Like I'm going to save people a lot of money right here. Somebody fails to fulfill their responsibility, it comes out of their profit to get somebody to do it. Example, if somebody's in charge of sales and then they're not good at it or they fail at it, you got to hire somebody to do it. They got to pony up. Another thing is, let's say somebody in the first 5 years of your startup wants to walk away. They get nothing. That's the best piece of advice they're getting in a podcast this year. I've had to write that check, and nothing stings worse than writing a check for somebody who was with you for the first year. And then they life brought other things they wanted to do, and you got to buy them out. No, they walk away in the first 5 years, they don't get a penny.
Right.
So those the first two things is that if they don't fulfill their responsibility and list each person's responsibility, they need to pay to get it covered out of their profit. Number 2 is they leave in the first 5 years, they don't get a dime. And then number 3 is, how are you guys going to argue? In other words, it's going to happen if both of you look at something differently, who breaks the tie? Find a mentor, find somebody, or one of you two need to agree that, okay, John's going to break the tie, or Susie, whatever it is. You can split profit 50-50 and still be a 51-49 business, which is typically what I do. So protecting yourself, intellectual property, incorporating, using a payroll service. I've seen too many companies get major tax problems because they want to do their own payroll. So I just think it's really important. One of my unbreakable rules is to protect yourself and your business.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. It's really important to anticipate and be proactive, as you're saying, to what could go wrong. It's not negative. It's being smart about your risk, right? And I think that's the difference. I had somebody say to me once, because I have similar feelings that you do, and I've also been burned, and therefore know how to do it differently. So it seems so negative. And I was like, it's not. It's just you're making sure that your expectations are in alignment, even when things go wrong, and you have to anticipate what could and go wrong so that you can put that in the
Exactly. If everything goes great, this agreement won't matter.
Right.
But if there is a chance, and there is a chance that things don't, I have just gone into partnerships where I would have bet you my very life we would have never broke up. And the person, 2008 hits, we have to take 50% pay cuts. He walks in the next day and says, hey, I'm out of here.
Right.
And I got to write it, and it's a recession. I got to write him a check to get rid of him, because if not, he can sell his stock to Uncle Billy. That's what it gets scary, is you can't afford to buy him out. So he sells his 50% of the company to who? Right. So you got to have that's another thing. You got to first right to buy somebody out. I could keep going, but that's why I'm saying partnership agreements are absolutely critical. Intellectual property, owning your name, owning, any patents and things like that. That these are serious things. They're in my unbreakable rules.
Distractions are the enemy of productivity. Go to distractionquiz.com and find out your distraction profile. Are you a time zombie or a hamster? Take this free distraction quiz today to rate your ability to focus on what keeps you from being a wizard. Go to distractionquiz.com.
Let me switch gears for a second.
Yeah.
You know, the show's called Take Back Time. So I want to talk a little bit about what I believe is, if cash flow is the number one reason why people go out of business, I believe the number two reason is because they don't spend their time in the places that they need to be spending in order to grow their business, which is why they don't have any cash flow. So it's a catch-22.
No, I agree with you.
First, let me ask you, what's your definition of productivity and why for the entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think this is it. Entrepreneurs, you're not as talented as you think you are. So let's just start with that. You probably do 2, maybe 3 things extremely well within your business. And I think I'm being kind, but no more than 3. You need to stay in your absolute area of strength where it would be too expensive to pay anybody else on the planet to do what you're doing. It needs to be at that high level. In other words, anything from $40 and down, that's just giving a quick dollar figure. You pay somebody. Okay, you pay somebody to do things of that nature. You want to be in your area that you are so productive, so gifted that everybody around you literally wants you only doing that. Like when I go in my office, my staff says to me, Sean, what can we get off your desk? Like, why? They want me to do nothing but market. They want me to do nothing but negotiate high-end clients. They want me to do nothing but recruit and hire high-level talent. That's my superpowers, those 3 things.
Right.
I fall out of those 3 things, I'm not helping my companies. So just know what you do really, really well. And if you're not sure, what's fun for you? The old thing, does time go by fast? Do other people tell you you're really good at it?
Right.
Don't try to be a master of a bunch of things. We only know Tiger Woods' name because he does one thing really well. We only know LeBron James' name for one reason. He does one thing extraordinarily well. Find that one thing that you really do well, and maybe you can add 2, no more than 3, but you're not doing 10 things.
Right. We're fooling ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
We really are. We're fooling ourselves. We want to be, that person who can do everything, but that's the worst thing for an entrepreneur, is to think that you can do everything.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So know your strengths. Absolutely. Do you think that what would you say is a shortcut? Like, what would you say is your shortcut to success if there was one?
Yeah. My shortcut to success in business is partnering. That is my superpower. That's the thing that I do it's like breathing to me. I have the ability to identify talent in people before they see it in themselves. So I see them, they're an employee somewhere. However I came into contact with them, my brain immediately starts going, talented person. Ideas are a dime a dozen. I find the person, then the idea. Never the idea, then the person. Typically, I find the person, and then my ideas start going where I feel like I can fit that person. But
right.
I always say 1 + 1 = done. Me plus one other solid person who can put the time and they have an expertise and they're going to run the day-to-day. I can get a business off the ground. I can make the phone ring. I'm good at creating systems and structures. But 1 + 1 = done. So partnering, nothing moves a business faster to scale. 2 people relentlessly running and, after something, you create momentum. The collaboration is great. Just partnering, I don't think there's any way to move faster than a great partnership.
I agree with you. And the other thing I like about partnering is it's skin in the game, right? You're both being compensated and moving it forward. And I think there's something in that too, that sometimes when you're working with a great team, if they don't feel like they're well compensated and have in some shape or form skin in the game, then you're not their partners, right? The difference is between ownership and like a transactional, right?
It's huge. I mean, an employee at the end of the day, once they leave the parking lot, they're not required to think about your business again until they show up the next day. Partner, I want him to be worrying or her to be worrying about it. If I'm worrying about something at 2:00 in the morning, I want them to be worrying too.
Right.
It's a totally different level of commitment. They have skin in the game. And so the upside is huge, but you're sharing problems with somebody who has a vested interest in the outcome.
Yeah.
And it's a much different level of commitment. When you're in the fire with a partner, it's a different level. Everybody's fighting. Nobody's running for cover. It's just a much, again, an employee is going to give you 8-10 hours a day and they can be great. And in fairness, you're paying them to give you 8 to 10 hours. So when they go the other 14 or 16, they're not obligated to you. So they shouldn't be worrying about your business, to be perfectly frank with you.
Well, it also comes down to people's personality and how well they're.
We always have the overachiever that will,
right.
And I've always had people. I've had people that would sleep on the floor in my business. We've all had them. I'm just saying you can't build a business around thinking everybody's going to think like that. We get blessed and have people like that. And I've always had at least 1 or 2 people on my team that were overachievers and would, you felt like they would die for you. All I would say is 20 years later, none of them are with me.
Yeah.
I would say they served for a season, and then life and whatever, they move on. And so they're great, but they're not there forever.
I like what you said. And I think it's really important because I think entrepreneurs do feel that when they have this small team, they feel like everybody should give the same effort and the same care about it in the same way that they do. And I see often people are disappointed and they think that people aren't good because they're not working at their level. But quite frankly, like you said, that's not what they're there to do.
Yeah.
So how do you help somebody with that mindset?
Well, I tell my team very, very straight up, I solve problems that you choose not to solve or you cannot solve. You can take that. I joke I said, listen, there's a reason why I make an extra zero. So, I got to think about problems at 2:00 in the morning on the weekend. There's just a different level of that. And I'm open. I love partners and I bring people on 5 years into the game that were maybe employees of mine. And I'm like, I want them. So I don't mind sharing. I just think I think it's unrealistic to think that an employee is going to be as loyal to you as a business partner.
Yeah.
To me, I think that's not really realistic.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we could talk all day and I would love to. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2. Do you have before we close off today's show, do you have anything, and then I think you've got a free gift for people, but just wanted to, is there anything that we missed that you really feel like you want to share with this audience before we get to the next?
Anybody can, this is what I can tell you, anybody can start a business if they have it ain't rocket science if you do the right things. If you move the things in your favor, you hire a good team, you market well. I'm just saying to you that you can do it. It's not that daunting. To me, it's not that hard anymore because I do the things correctly. And I'm just saying, so, the life of an entrepreneur is really, really great. And so it's so worth it. I have never missed a school function in my life. Okay. I've never missed any event that mattered to me. I can afford to go to anything. I took a limousine to the Conor McGregor fight 4 states away because my son wanted to go on a spur of the moment. I could afford to buy tickets and make that happen. So the things you're able to do is well worth it. So it's worth the fight, but go through these rules, and I give them away for free. Like, I've been talking about this book, but I'm not even selling it to you, so I'm actually giving it for free. So if you go to my personal site, SeanCastrina.com, you can get the 8 Unbreakable Rules. The digital version is right there where I'm giving it to you for free. So we talked today about my book, and I'm giving it to you. So there you go. So
awesome. Well, thank you. It's a great gift for people because I think those principles, they're like the fundamentals, right? So it doesn't matter whether you just started your business or you've been in business for 5 years, just like in football, right? They say, okay, guys, we're going to go back to the fundamentals, right? Because those fundamentals, sometimes we get away from them or we forget about them or we're not implementing them as purely.
Yeah. If your business is struggling, my suspicion is you're not, you do, as you said, the basics. There's one of these 8 that you're skipping or not putting any attention to.
Right. So I just want to highlight, no matter whether you're a startup and listening or anywhere in your business, these are going to be valuable rules that you want to refresh, check out. And, your fresh perspective, Sean, is really valuable. Yeah.
And if you like the way I talk, you obviously get a pretty good idea of how I teach. I host the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast. And basically, if you like hearing about how to start a business or the type of conversation I was having, that's how I am on my podcast. It's real short to the point. It's like an MBA for people who don't have a time to get an MBA.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge that you're bringing here.
Great. Thank you for having me as a guest.
And thank you all for being here. Huge, huge value. Go check that book out and really take a step back and take some time to take a look at how are you approaching each of these areas in your business, whether it's a startup or whether you've been in business for many years. So thank you. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.